All right, welcome everybody. We are here. It is a great day, sleet and snow in East Philadelphia, and I have the great pleasure of connecting today with trumpeter, composer, and arranger Igmar Thomas. I want to read a couple of things that I found this morning, little gems. Igmar Thomas is a visionary artist. His fluency in swing and his knack for transmuting the genres of the African diaspora make him one of the most sought after minds in contemporary music. A student of trumpeters Nicholas Payton and Roy Hargrove, his roles vary from sideman and section leader to band leader and musical director for artists like Esperanza Spalding, Kamasi Washington, and more. There is so much that I want to get to today, but this part is very important. Igmar proudly serves as an ambassador of Black musical culture at the helm of Igmar Thomas and the Cypher and the acclaimed Revive Big Band, which is what we're going to dig into today. Igmar Thomas, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm good. Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. I wouldn't turn it down. I want to dig back. I learned so much today about and yesterday about big bands, and I really have this great opportunity to hear from you what you think of the history of big bands. But I went all the way back, uh, reading about the structure, but I went all the way back to Fletcher Henderson,
Oh yeah.
and is that the beginning?
Oh man, I would have to look into the actual beginning. Yeah, but he's definitely one of the progenitors.
He's the cat. I mean, I was reading about Black Swan Records and his and W.C. Handy and Harry Pace
Mhm.
and all these people, and I love it because it comes alive. I think we have a tendency in our culture to look at the past in one dimensionally.
Mhm.
Okay, that's what big bands are, and everybody has a particular memory, whether it's the swing years, what have you, and then they say, okay, well that's what big bands are, and then they move on. But let's jump forward for 1 second and say, why have a big band in 2021?
It was pretty organic or grassroots, if you will. Um, I guess if I could breeze through the origin of it, it was a project essentially. I had basically a popular jam session. A lot of musicians would come to play up in Harlem, in New York,
Mhm.
and they'd sign up, they'd play, and it was packed to the point where people didn't get to play, or they might have comments or complaints and concerns about the time they were allowed to play.
Uh-huh.
So, being in New York, the culture as far as jam sessions and jazz go is 10-minute solos. So it doesn't leave a lot of room
Downtown, yeah.
for the cats. So, between trying to like balance the time of the solos and trying to get people to participate as well as just on the stage and, this, that, and the third, I was like, how can I get everybody to play together? And eventually light bulb, big band. Because all of us, I'm a public school, you know, I came out of the public schools, and we all pretty much started in big bands. If you're playing instruments and stuff, and you came through that, channel like so many of
Hmm.
us. So it's kind of like a go back to the beginning type of thing.
Yeah, I've heard that sentiment echoed before. That's kind of a foundation for everyone. Was that true for you? You studied like big band in school?
That was my introduction to the genre known as jazz. Yeah.
Ah, gotcha.
I mean, no, that as far as playing, like I was hearing that in the womb. As far as the music itself, I was hearing that my entire life. And that was I made it. It was intentional. I was like, if I'm going to keep playing trumpet, I want to start dealing with jazz. So
There you go. Can you tell me a little bit about the family? Like, I'd like to start with the foundation, really. Like, how were your
yeah.
parents musicians? Were you encouraged
Oh,
to be a musician?
no, I'm learning that my grandfather was a singer, but my parents weren't musicians. I just grew up hearing music all the time in the house, very loudly, and
Hmm.
every single style, like all of them. Like I grew up hearing a bunch of jazz. I grew up hearing Fela Kuti. I grew up hearing Marvin Gaye. Michael Jackson, you name it. Like Prince was popular. I'm an '80s baby. You know, I mean, like there's so many things that go into that. Whether it's like directly, because my dad's a huge audiophile. Like he has walls and walls full of vinyls,
Mm.
the cassettes, CDs, and now like he needs a bigger hard drive for all of his MP3s. So he's a huge audiophile,
God
and
bless him. Yeah.
yeah, it was just everywhere in my house, and then when I go outside, my friends, it was just a thing of the culture. You hear it in the streets, you know.
You grew up in Los Angeles?
No, my father is in the military. I was in Orange County,
Gotcha.
and then we moved to San Diego. All of my family's in Los Angeles, so I've been in Los Angeles my entire life.
And you attended school at some point with some of the cats that we're familiar with on the label, did you not? Connecting with folks like Kamasi Washington, Terrace Martin, et cetera, or no?
Oh yeah, yeah. We didn't go to the same school,
Ah.
but I met them. I think I was still in high school. It's kind of funny. Like technically, I met Kamasi and Ronald Bruner. I met them at the same time at the old Catalinas in Hollywood,
Mm,
and I technically met them through Roy. I've known Roy Hargrove since
mm.
high school, so he put me on the list every night. So I'd be up there every night, whether I was driving from my mom's house or I was staying with family in Los Angeles. I was there every night, and
Mhm.
I met them there. They were like, "Who is this young guy?" And I was looking at them like, "Who is this young guy?" and Terrace, yeah, I met him around the same time. A bunch of people, Thundercat, everybody. Terrace was like the he's a little older than us, but he's the cat. He was playing with Billy Higgins. He was the prodigy.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like 15, he was already touring and playing with Billy Higgins, who
And driven.
driven, yeah, playing all that language.
Mm. So I saw a headline, and I'm the older I get, and the more the internet encroaches on everything we do, the less I like headlines. But they give me at least a marker to kind of dig in deeper. And I don't remember where this came from, but the headline was "Where Jazz Meets Hip Hop."
I
I
am
thought,
not responsible for that.
but yeah, I mean, that's such a simplistic way to put things, right? Um, I want to try to dig in a little deeper and see if I can understand. And so maybe you mentioned big band in school, and then you mentioned the scene in Harlem and getting that together. Um, how do you think? How would you present it about how those influences tie in to what you're doing?
As far as the big band in high school, and
No, as far as coming to the present day and what you're doing with Revive Big Band, because that quote is about Revive Big Band, right? Uh,
yes, absolutely, yeah, it is. I mean, it doesn't have to be. I mean, Revive Big Band is an extension of everything I've done, do, and associated with. So,
Got it. Um, how do those influences come in? How would you describe
yeah.
what Revive Big Band is doing? Yeah.
I would say it's really just the diaspora. It's the Black musical canon, more specifically Black American music,
Hmm.
dealing with the blues, which is the originator and it is the king of all of this. It's in the fabric of every single thing. As you know, it precedes jazz and ragtime and
Mm.
comes out of slavery. You know.
That's what fascinated me about Fletcher Henderson when I was reading it, because he really was not going to New York to create a big band. He was, and he worked with W.C. Handy and others, and it really was in blues.
Mhm.
It wasn't
Mhm.
jazz. So I'm glad that you touched on that, because that was one of my questions. I don't really always associate the two that directly, but that's the foundation, huh?
Well, to further answer your question, and I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, I did a show with the Revive Big Band called A Legacy Through the Journey of Black Music, and it was focusing on America. And obviously, we started with a Charlie Patton tune, which is a blues artist, and our great guitarist Marvin Sewell performed that solo. And that's what you'll find with the rural blues. You'll find solo guitar and accompanying vocals, or you might have some different elements in there, but that's kind of the essential. I would say that we're just playing the canon of black music. We do come out of the jazz tradition,
Hmm.
what is known as jazz. Obviously, it's a big band format. Um, I spend a lot of my time studying jazz musicians as well as my brothers and sisters that I hire in the band. So those are the influences that definitely do come out. I'm an '80s baby. I was born pretty close to the same time as hip hop. Hip hop's a little older than me.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I came up in that, and many other influences, but like that headline kind of is a simple. It's just a headline. It's like a simple way to try to explain something because the band and the music itself, it plays from so many different styles and influences, and that's why I say it's really like the black music canon. It's not a jack of all trades. It's more of it's just cultural heritage. It's expressed in family tree. It's internal, and it's just art. You're just putting it out. So you'll see many interviews or different things with artists who are like, "Don't put me in a box. I
Hmm.
don't play that four-letter word, or I don't do this, or I'm not just this, or I love a lot of different musics. Whether you're talking about Bird, Miles Davis, there's plenty of rappers that listen to plenty of stuff. Terrace Terrace Martin, when I first moved to New York in '03, him and Kamasi and some other guys, Ryan, they were in Snoop Dogg's band. And I thought I was actually gonna hop in that for a second on that tour. But I hung out with them in New York. I just got to New York. And long story short, went to the show. It was amazing. We head back to the hotel, and I end up in Snoop Dogg's penthouse, just hanging out with everybody. There's plenty of people there, his bodyguards and plenty of people, band and whatnot. I'm there with Kamasi, and we're hanging. And the first thing he puts on is some old school R&B. So if you know anything about Snoop, you know he's an old school cat. And he
Hmm.
always has been. And he didn't play not one piece of hip hop or anything that whole night. And this is like early 2000s, so he's not completely removed from, you know, I guess he's more accessible to a lot of more people now than he was back then.
Hmm.
I always love him. But anyway, like it would be a surprise to many people that he'd play that music. And that's kind of the bigger point. Like, there's no monolith.
Right.
There's no one person that, if there was an office, there was no one person that was elected to it that represents and speaks for everybody. So it's exactly that. It's a culture, it's a combination, it's many things that turn into things, and it goes every which direction, like a tree.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I'm no stranger to it. I see it, we're blessed over here to receive albums from many people who come from jazz tradition, but or trained in jazz and are taking it in so many. I wouldn't want to say directions, based on what you just said. There's no monolith, right? But they're doing it in different ways. They're expressing it in their particular branch or their particular way.
Sure.
And I'm thinking of Nate Smith. I'm thinking of Terrace. I'm thinking of Sean Martin, Russell Gunn, uh,
Mm.
and it's really beautiful. And I I think that you're kind of doing it. The exciting part for me as a listener, right, as someone who's more of a fan and obviously than a musician, um, I like it when those headlines and those generalizations or those labels get broken apart. I love to see that because then I learn more and my understanding and my interest in music grows. as we break some of those definitions.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really is perspective because as far as a family's concerned, it's all the same thing.
Mm.
Father, son, grandfather, great grandfather. It's a lineage. It's a tree. It's a family tree, and that's exactly what the music is. So I mean, no matter how you slice it, everybody's influenced by something. Classical music at some point was influenced by the drum rhythms coming out of Africa. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So, I mean, it's bound to happen. The music known as jazz is influenced by not only the classical instruments, but the things that they were exposed to being in America at that point. You know, ragtime
Mhm.
blues. I guess you have your Broadway's shows and your minstrels and, those things of that nature. Like, the Broadway esque and the style, the European style they were singing in, that that seasoning and that mixture, it's really a melting pot. It's a gumbo. That wouldn't have happened in different countries. It's because of slavery and all of these really ugly conditions that threw us in this land is how the black community eventually just came up with this different music.
Mhm.
And it's through not being able to play the drums, making that illegal, and not having access to your religion, your family, your history, your family tree, your lineage, your language, like all of these things contribute, and also the fact that America, because of slavery, made so much money for free. It propelled them and it put them in a position to have so many innovations and inventions, which put them at the top of the world, in front of at the helm of the world. So even if we're talking about music, like the Victrola, the telephone, the airplane, the railroad, like the fact that that music influenced in so many different ways was because of those inventions and many more things. Like eventually the airplane and the television,
Mm.
like Louis Armstrong, like he's the ambassador, but his timing is not to be undermined. Lewis is one of one, but like
Mm.
also like record players were around at that point. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And he was able to travel the world and be on television. You know,
It's amazing. I do want to come back to the record player, but let's stay on that topic for a minute. You know, I'm watching the diaspora unfold and express itself musically and socially in a more diverse and powerful way than I've ever seen in my life. And I'll even count, you know, James Brown and Michael Jackson and Prince, as I don't want to say they are beneath that, but while those were powerful moments, what I see now is just a bigger wave, if you will, of influence, both socially and musically, from the Black community. How do you see this time?
access, technology,
Uh,
and it's access both ways. It's a two-way street. Like they receive and they share. And I forget what it was, but there's like some kind of 100 monkey experiment, a
oh, the
Japanese.
thousandth monkey, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, like once the monkey witnesses or sees the 99th monkey doing something and becomes a 100 monkey, it just kind of like clicks through the
Then,
whole entire. Like they all pick up this skill, whether it's like peeling the banana or drinking from the
yeah,
specific river because the other one's dirty or whatever it is.
yeah.
Like they all, it's spread like that, and that's the psychological thing, I guess you could say. But the fact that we have Zoom, YouTube,
Mhm.
and Apple Music, so on and so forth, like learning music and having access to it is much different, even from when I was young. I remember transcribing J.J. Johnson, Freddie Hubbard off of a cassette tape, which was up a half step. So if it's in B flat, I would learn it in B. So like I at least go that far back, and then I have many older brothers and people I look up to that they're doing records. You know what I mean? A
Mm.
lot of people learned. So what? in E flat, but it's in D.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? But it's just the access and the fact that we can all commune and have access to all these different influences, whether, beyond music, way beyond music. You
Right. It
know,
transcends just the music, socially and culturally. That's a very positive statement. I love it.
absolutely. And the
I mean,
same goes for the social justice that you've been saying, that you mentioned.
hmm.
You're having all of these things on the screen. You know,
It's funny when I see that because last summer, last spring and summer, of course, um, with George Floyd and that explosion into the everyday consciousness of so many people, I was getting phone calls and I was kind of I was a little stunned. I mean, I felt like monkey number 45 or something. Like I had heard this and I was like, why this one? Why all of a sudden does it spill over and everyone is beginning a process of understanding? It it took me a moment to kind of get up to speed there. I remembered at the time watching Jesse Jackson at the victory speech from Obama in Chicago
Mhm.
when he was crying, and it wasn't the way that he saw it unfolding, but he because he was of a different time, but he
Mhm.
was overjoyed just the same that it was actually happening. Um,
Mhm.
so a beautiful thing, and I love the positivity because there's so many moments of negativity and there's so much work to be done. And for someone like myself who's lived through, oh, you look, my whole life. I mean, I was 7 when Dr. King was killed, and you just become in a certain way so numb to it and have a certain sense of, yeah, well, are things really going to change this time? But I think the things you're saying indicate that more of us are waking up.
Yeah, I could agree to that. I mean, if it's on the screen, I'm going to say that it's not worse.
Hmm.
Yeah, I would imagine 100 years ago in 1921 it was worse,
Hmm.
but it's on your screen now.
You get to see it. You see it more often. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all these things that we don't see. Obviously, we didn't witness Emmett Till, but that was worse. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that was commonplace. There's so many things that are done in the dark and go unsaid, but it's on the screen. So that is comforting to know more people can be woken up to these facts. But in my case, like, I'm the 1 billionth monkey.
Hmm.
I don't need, like, that to me is just trauma. You know, like, I guess one thing I can say, I have a song I wrote called "The Hunted," and I wrote it for my friend, one of my very good friends. At one point was my best friend when I was young, beginning band, and pretty much the first time I was about to get arrested was with him. Why? Because we were being profiled. Why didn't they arrest us? Because they didn't have any grounds to. Showing up on the car, handcuffed, roughed up, cussed at, threats, all of this stuff, given some fake write up, and now we're looking like we're guilty. Fast forward to the year after high school, that same friend is murdered by the police.
Hmm.
And the police, he feared for his life. This is San Diego. He feared for his life because allegedly, my friend who I know, who wouldn't do this, allegedly he was approaching him with a screwdriver. And he was walking through a well to do neighborhood throwing rocks at a mailbox. So the neighbors called the police. This is the report that was in the newspaper. I don't believe any of this shit.
Hmm.
He's not somebody who's gonna just be somewhere random throwing. He has better things to do. He's not gonna be throwing rocks at a mailbox, and he's not dumb. He's not charging after a police officer with a screwdriver. Even if it was a screwdriver and that happened, That's no reason to shoot him 12 times, or not 12 times, more
Even
than two,
once. Yeah.
more than two times, or at all in the
Hmm.
chest. I wrote that song for him, and I feel like everybody has that story. That there's plenty of people that have that story. I'm the 1 billionth monkey, you
Mm.
know, in terms of that experiment that was done. Like I don't like that's trauma to like it's very hard to watch that George Floyd video.
Hmm.
I can't even say I've seen it more than once.
Mm.
Like I won't subject myself to that. Like I think the narrative is that our history is solely steeped in injustice and oppression, and our history began with history, and that's the truth of it. Like our history is eons; it goes back eons, and civilization began in the cradle of this diaspora and in that motherland, Africa.
Yes.
So all I'm saying is, just based on time alone, it far outweighs and is better to talk about than just the narrative of slavery. That's where we're still dealing with those after effects now, granted. But like the influence that we lead has such a huge impact on the point of view. Huge, huge. Like and it's psychological, but it's also more than that. Like you can look at the children with the black baby versus white baby dolls. Like
Mm.
the influence is huge, and I think there's just so many beautiful things to talk about other than just going to Netflix and going to that section where it says Black stories during Black History Month, and all you see is just trauma. 12-year-old
Right.
story,
Right.
Black and Blue and Blue Line and I don't even remember all the movies, but like it's pure struggle. The whole thing, you might get like maybe a little rom-com somewhere in there, but like it's pure struggle. And I'm just saying we have such a beautiful history, the diaspora in itself, and I think unity and telling those stories, unity could be a result of that. Positivity, like support within oneself, as opposed to the
Yeah.
crab in the bucket, and that's a cross racial lines.
Mm. Yeah, I hear you on the shows, and I hope we move past it. I mean, you don't want to forget history, but I think there's just so many. There are just so many people who haven't heard about these. I mean, I've watched it even at home. We learned about Tulsa, and many of my friends were like, "Did you know about this?" I'm like, "Yes,"
Yeah, it has a place.
but they're hearing it for the first time. But I think the greatest thing, and this is what I'm sorry. Did you want to jump in there?
Yeah, it has a place, but the balance is messed up.
Right.
It's
Right.
there is no balance. There's no game. Like
Well, for me, there's a great lesson for all humans because when you witness someone like yourself and so many musicians that I've had the black musicians that I've had the great pleasure of knowing, you're taking this history and yet it's 9 times out of 10 or 99 out of 100 it's always turned to something positive, especially in music. Like you have an ability that uh, our culture, the culture that I was raised in, and I don't want to make that monolithic, but I will for a moment. Um, I was raised in America and dubbed a white man. Not early on, but at some point, I just became that, right? Because that's what they used as the definition. Um, and I don't think, as a group, we really know how to suffer and come out in a positive way. So, like, how do you do that personally, or is it just a natural thing? I mean, take this recognition of the history and the injustice and the sustained and persistent injustice, and then get up in the morning and walk out and be like, I'm going to make something great today. I'm going to make something beautiful.
well, that's just because of the type of human that I am.
Mm.
Not everybody's like that. and I don't think they should be, or I don't think they also desire to. Um, and I think that's when it shines through. Like my friend who I did go to school with, Christian, I know he too shares, funnel things and something positive. I mean, there's people that end up here talking to you for those reasons, but we both have plenty of friends that didn't make it,
Mhm.
and they don't handle situations and obstacles the same way we do, and that's a human thing. And at the same time, the reasons those obstacles are presented can be different for sure. But yeah, I mean, there's no like real struggle Olympics. Like everybody has their turmoil, I would definitely say that it's my personality,
Mhm.
and it's really it's I figured out, to me it's mostly mental,
Yep.
psychological. Yeah.
Well, I ask the question because I really would like to see some people learn more about how to do that, and how to elevate the vibration. And I think music is a great vehicle for that. Let's
Yeah.
let's jump forward to Revive Big Band in the sake of time here.
Mhm.
The record player question I wanted to ask to kick it off is this will be you're going in to record, right?
Yeah.
This is the first recording for Revive Big Band.
It's the first album.
So how's your experience? How do you f- how do you see the difference between that live performance and going down and putting this down on a record for eternity?
I was able, within reason, to take out a microscope. It's a big band. We've been around for several years. Usually, when we have like first of all, to rehearse, you need a reason, and sometimes you have to manufacture a reason. Like some people just pay people to play music they just wrote, like a reading rehearsal. I've been fortunate to usually have a gig. That's a reason to rehearse, and the rehearsals can only go so far. Needless to say, that process is important, but it's not always as thorough as it should be to give the music everything that it needs. So there's things that are missed or not executed. The difference with the album is, there's still that human aspect. There's still that, like, you're going to hear individuals and those artists within the band, but I was definitely able to take out more of a microscope and, just get some things right, as in how I heard them in my head when I wrote them.
Uh-huh. So you've already started?
Yes, we
Okay.
we did quite a bit of heavy lifting, and I fronted that,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, we encountered COVID, and really more so, time. I was touring so much, so the timing of it slowed it down, because we did begin over a year ago. Our last session was over a year ago,
Oh wow.
but it's not done. So we're trying to be able to supplement the completion of the record. So it's everything from recording ensemble members, paying engineers, mixing, mastering, management, and administration. Majority of my special guests are down, agreed, support, expose the movement, but have not been recorded yet.
Mm-hmm.
Videos haven't been booked and things of that nature. In certain cases, I'm gonna have to fly to mix and stay somewhere for a week. So like, there's plenty. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna keep going, but there's plenty to take into account. And I don't know. This is a project I think deserves everything.
I hear you. I hear you. And I know there's a Kickstarter campaign going, and for people who are watching, I believe you're halfway to the goal. I'd love to see it 100 to 200% of that goal. to make that easier, because I know it can't be easy. It's not easy to record a big band when you're all able to go to the same studio. It's got to be ridiculously challenging to do from a distance with different people. Are
Absolutely.
are you the composer and writer on and
100,
arranger on everything?
135,000%.
Got
Yeah,
it.
I wrote it all. There are plenty of arrangements, so much credit and respect to the Wayne Shorters and the Freddie Hubbards, the Thelonious Monks, the Bilals, the Jay Dillas, and you name it. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
I definitely have my originals mixed in.
Are you? I understand that there are going to be quite a few special guests on the album. Are you? Have you uh,
Yeah, we confirmed
leaked any of
some.
those names yet, or can you mention any today?
Yeah, Terrace Martin's on the record. Um, Sean Jones, Nicholas Payton's producing the record,
Ah,
and
beautiful.
he's featured soloist on several tracks. Ben Williams, Marcus Strickland, who I have a live on IG tonight with. We're talking about. I'm going to do a little interview on Marcus, and we're going to talk about the record and our Kickstarter, trying to get
Beautiful.
more people to support. Mark Whitfield. Uh, let's see, Dr. Lonnie Smith.
Hmm.
I went to his house. And
What an amazing man! I met him at your show down in Durham. I think it
yeah,
was. Gosh, it's going to
mhm,
be 5 years now. Just
yeah.
so he's a presence. Like Snoop
He
is a
has a
like Snoop is a presence, but a diff, but you just know, you're just like, I'm in now in the presence of someone far
yeah,
further up the enlightenment hill than I may ever
it
be.
shines, and it's like when he plays the organ, it, it's more than it magnifies.
Mm,
It amplifies. It's like a telescope. It's like the sun.
yeah, yeah.
It's really amazing, and it's a natural thing, and it's not strictly restricted to the music and the notes that he plays. It's the completion of him. You know.
He is it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, there were plenty of people on the record.
Great.
Bilal, yeah, Talib Kweli, and
Mm,
another rapper who will be mentioned, will be named soon. It's not
not yet to be named. Got it. Got it.
yeah.
Well, man, this has been it's been so wonderful speaking with you. As we wrap up, uh, I will put in the comments in detail when we air this exactly where you can go to support this. And I please, I urge you to, as you've heard today, this is a heartfelt work in progress that is a contribution to all of our culture. So please do support. Is there anything that I've missed that you would like to add for people who might be watching?
um, I do want to say that it's all connected and we're all one, and the main message is unity. And it's any which way you choose to look at that. So you can break it up into one big group or several smaller ones, but the result is the same. And through that, I'd like to express gratitude to the fact that Revive Big Band exists in part because of Megan Stabile and Revive Music. Um, the fact that my consultant and best friend Raydar Ellis has helped me immensely in many ways, and just many thanks to all these people that definitely have been a part of the journey. And Nicholas Payton, who's a part of the first show, and he's here with us now, and such a my trumpet hero, musician hero, and Roy Hargrove, so many people. Lionel Hampton, actually, I owe a big debt to, who I know knew, and because of him and big bands, I'm here.
For quite some time, right? From school days, or
School, yeah, I
yeah,
met him
yeah.
in high school, and he linked me up with a scholarship, and I met Al Gray first, who introduced me to Lionel, and I performed at Lionel's big band several times, and his artist and spoke on the phone with him, and he gave me a keyboard and all this stuff. So
Beautiful, beautiful.
like that was a transition. So thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank you for doing what you do, for putting beauty into the world, and for allowing me some time to chat with you. I'm excited to support this project in the small way that I can. Igmar Thomas, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.